So for this week, we will you will consider only these points. Only these points. So from SACS to the end of the chapter will be removed. It's clear for everyone? Okay. So in this session we will continue with chapter 7, representing web data with XML. So before starting this session, I will ask you some questions to review all the topics in face-to-face class. So in face-to-face class we talked about XML and XML syntax. Also we investigate XML documents, and we get RSS as an example of XML document. Also we discuss XML namespaces. So in this session we will continue with JavaScript and XML for Ajax and Java-based DOM. So XML is the abbreviation of what? XML stands for what? Yes, but stands for what? Yes, with E, extensible markup language. Yes, with E, extensible markup language. Good. Okay. After that, there are some. An XML document is one that follows certain syntax rules. What are these rules? Can you give me some rules? Some rules. Yes. We can use tags to create our XML document. Case sensitive, yes. If we open a tag, we must close this tag. Good. Also, how many root in an XML document? How many roots? One root, yes, good. Only one root, etc. And after that, what's the meaning or the difference? Next question. What's the difference between markup and character data? Markup and character data. What is the difference? Yes, so markup will compare to certain rule. No tags and dissertation, no tags included, for examples. Yes, so an XML document consists of markup and character data. So the difference is character data is all the data, everything, but not markup. Markup, that means without tags, without references, only data. Okay? So for example, if I write, this is just I want to connect my tablet. So if I write like this, A, X, 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 and A. So in yellow, this is and this one are markup, and in blue, this is character data, and all this represents yellow plus blue represents an element. Good. So all this represents an element. What's the meaning of C data section? What's the meaning of C data section? So C data section will be used to what? No. No, not to add comments, no. So to add comments, just a moment, to add comments for Mr. Abdullah, we use these characters. So these characters are used to add comments. Not differentiation of comments and declaration, no. So the correct response is provided by Radhoune. All characters will processed as data. So if we want, for example, to write this character in our XML like this, we want to write message this and that and message, and we want to, so the blue data, the blue characters are data, and the markup characters here we want to write A after that and A. Okay, there are two methods. The first manner is the green one. So I write A, and between A and A I will use references. I will use references like this. And LT. What's the meaning of and LT here? And LT semicolon. Yes. To write this character. That means this character is not a tag. This one and GT is also not a tag, etc. So this is a first manner. It's clear for you, the first manner, the green one. That means message this and that and is not in XML code. It's just a data. So to say that this code is a data, I use and LT and GT. I will write A, C data, and A. This is the second manner. So C data here is used to say that all the characters between C data and will be parsed as a data, not as a tags. I repeat, C data and is used to declare that all the data, like this one message, this and that, will be considered as a data, as a text, and not as a markup, not as a tags. It's clear for you now how why the goal of C data section. Any questions? Okay. In XML syntax, one of the rules is start and end tags must properly nest. Start and end tags must properly nest. Yes, inside each other. If we will insert a tag in another tag, we must close this tag before the parent tag. Yes, I will give you an example. So, for example, I write like this. A, after that B is a child of A, C also is a child of A. Before closing A here, we must close C. So to close, Mr. Ammar, to close A, we write AND A. This is the AND with this character, AND. And this one is the start. Start. So another example. So this example is not proper. The tags or the start and end tags in this example are not properly nested. If I write, for example, A, B, and B, C, and A, and C. So this is an error. Error. It's clear for you? Any questions about this rule? Okay. So a tag in XML can contain an attribute specification. Yes, Mr. Walid, this is an error. If I write A, B, and A, and B, it's an error. So A, I must and A here, and B, I must and B here. This is correct. A, B, and B, after that and A. Okay? So next question, an XML tag can contain an attribute, yes or no? I repeat my question, an XML tag can contain or not an attribute. Yes, so start and empty elements tag may contain attribute specification separated by white space. So in XML, white space characters are space, carriage return, line feed, and tab. So there are four white space characters. So what's the meaning of a well-formed XML document? Well-formed XML document follows the XML syntax rules and has a single root element. So if we have a well-formed XML document, we can represent this XML document with a tree structure. So a tree structure can be used to represent this XML document. What's the meaning of XML parser? XML parser. Not compiler, but it is a software to read and write XML document. So XML parser can be used to add. Yes, we can, like an editor, yes. So in XML parser, for example, it can be a Java code, okay, some instruction in Java, and with this instruction we can read the XML document, extract some information from some specific tags, add a specific tag, remove a specific tag, etc. No, not plus plus is not a parser, is an editor. But XML parser is a program to read and write and add. So Notepad cannot add a tag. So the user must write this tag. But here we talk about a program, a Java program. For example, an XML parser can give us the number of a child of a specific tag, can give us also the number of the number of tags, for example name, the number of tags first name, can for example modify the value of the tag first name of another specific tag to another value, etc. Here when we talk about parser, it is a software, it is a program, and this program is to read and write XML document. I will give you a concrete example of a parser. Okay. So, for example, we have our XML document and structures. Do you remember our example of the provided in face-to-face class? Yes, good. Java DOM is a parser with SEU, and we have the first structure, first name, and first name, last name, and department, and structure. Okay, and SEO. We can, for example, prepare a form with the 3 input text and OK button, and this form will add, for example, X, Y, W. And when we click on OK, there is a parser, and this parser will add a new structure here automatically with X, Y, etc. Okay, so the parser will get this value. After that, we'll create an element and structure with first name, last name, department, and in first name the value will be X, and the last name the value will be Y, and in the department the value will be W. It's clear now what's the meaning of a parser? So the same parser can, for example, remove the first structure with Java code. We can remove. We can add, we can remove, we can search, we can count, etc. This is a parser. It's clear what's the meaning of. Do you hear me? Okay, so Mr. Abdullah, do you hear me? Abdullah bin Musa, do you hear me? Okay. The sound is okay? Okay, so the problem is yes. So can you please write okay to say that for Mr. Abdullah the problem is not. So yes, thank you. Okay, now let's move to, so also in face-to-face class we discussed an example of XML document, the RSS document. So in this example the root is RSS, this is the root, and channel, title, link, etc. are some tags. Also in face-to-face class we discussed the namespace, XML namespace, sorry, before namespace, what's the meaning of this sentence or instruction? If I write XML version equal 1.0, what's the meaning of, or this one? XML version 1.0 encoding equal ISO, etc. Yes, good. This is to explain the version of XML and represents an XML declaration. XML declaration. Okay? XML declaration. So to declare our XML document. So let's move now to XML namespace. XML namespace is a collection of element and attribute names associated with an XML vocabulary. Can you give me an example of XML vocabulary? So LT, AMP, EPOS, and code are references in XML, not the vocabulary. Represent references. So to write less, for example, we write and LT. So this is a reference. But some examples of vocabulary. Yes, good. So XHTML is an example of XML vocabulary. And in XHTML, we will talk about TR, TD, body, HTML, head, etc. So this is a vocabulary. Also, RSS is an example of XML vocabulary. It's clear? Okay, let's move now to JavaScript and XML. So JavaScript DOM can be used to process XML documents. And JavaScript XML DOM processing is often used with XML HTTP requests. So XML HTTP requests can be used to make connection with a JavaScript code and a server-side program code like PHP or Servlet or any code. Okay. So host objects, that is a constructor for other host objects, and for with this manner, JavaScript can, the JavaScript here, sorry, so the JavaScript can send an HTTP request to the server, and after that receive back an XML document. So I will explain you this. Here we have our client. Here we have our server. And here we have our database. So in the client, we can prepare a JavaScript code, and the JavaScript code can send an HTTP request to the server. For example, here our example is exercise1.php, After that, exercise1.php can communicate with the database. Prepare an XML response, and this response will be sent to the client. And to send this request, the JavaScript use here, to send this request, the JavaScript will use HTTP XML HTTP request. XML HTTP request. Okay, so keep in the mind that a JavaScript code can send an HTTP request. JavaScript code can send an HTTP request to the server and receives back an XML document. And to send this HTTP request, the object XML HTTP request. It's clear? Do you hear me? Okay. So an example of use: previous visit count servlet must reload documents to see updated counts, and visits with XML HTTP request browser will automatically update the visit count periodically without reloading the entire page. This is an example of JavaScript and XML code. So what is AJAX? AJAX is the abbreviation of asynchronous JavaScript and XML, and it is a combination of HTML, XML, CSS, JavaScript, Java DOM, and the object XML HTTP request in asynchronous mode. So we can use AJAX. Yes. So we will load content of page without reloading the page. So in this example, if we use JavaScript and XML, that means we will use AJAX. So in this example of use, there is a difference between the first scenario and the second one. In the first scenario, we have a servlet visit count, and this servlet counts the number of the visit. In the second one, visit count will be created using XML HTTP request, and the browser will automatically update the visit count without reloading the entire page. This is created using AJAX. So AJAX is not a technology. AJAX is not a language. AJAX is a combination of technology. So keep in the mind that AJAX is not a technology, but is a combination of HTML, XML, CSS, JavaScript, Java DOM, and XML HTTP request. No, normally no. I will prepare a study guide with my colleagues, and in the final, like this, no. So just for you, this is an example of Ajax, JavaScript and XML. This one is an example of Ajax. So I will skip this example, and I want to explain for you that Ajax, asynchronous JavaScript and XML, is not a language, and is not a technology, but it is a combination of many technologies like HTML, XML, CSS, JavaScript, JavaScript DOM, and XML HTTP request in asynchronous mode. It's clear for you? Okay. Let's now move to Java-based DOM. So what is Java-based DOM? It is an API defined by W3C DOM package, and it is similar to JavaScript DOM, but there are many small syntax differences. Okay? Yes, it is a library. And we will use Java-based DOM. For example, if I write document dot get element by tag name link item 0, this is return the first item of all tags link. That it's clear. Item 0, that means first item of all tags link. So if we want to count all links element in RSS document, so this is the Java code to count these links. Okay, so document.get element by tag name return as all the links, and after that links.get length give us the number of these links. So this is an example of a program, a Java-based DOM program that count the number of links. So Java-based DOM can be considered as what? If I write a program like this, it can be considered as what? Good, as a parser. So this program count the number of tags link in RSS document. So here we find, so we will create a parser like this. This is our parser, and we will, in this parser, we will invocate the method parse. Here we will give the name of this file, and after that we will count the number of links. So we will use the Java-based DOM to parse our XML document, to count, for example, a number of tags, to remove a tag, to add a tag, etc. So we must to make some imports. For example, here imports from GDK IO file, from DOM classes, from AXP classes to create the parsers, etc. So also, if we use Java-based DOM, we can specify that the namespace will be used or not, etc. So SACS to be removed to the end of the chapter. Yes, from SACS. Yes. So for XML and servlet, the coding will be very little.